Well, let me just say it one more time. Now that I hit record, I'll repeat one more time for those who are going to watch the video, right? So on the self-assessment leadership paper that's due November 10th, right? I want you to use the self-assessments in the textbook that we've been reading, and we've been looking at those, right? And analyze where you are as a leader now. So tell me your strengths and weaknesses, how you see yourself as a leader, and then look at where do I want to be as a leader, and then an action plan to get you from point A to point B. So tell me specifically things you could do, whether it's in work or out, you could do to make you what you think is a better leader, the newer, better, improved 2.0 version of you as a leader, right? And again, it doesn't even have to be at work. It could be things you're doing outside of work, which is fine. Like I've had people not comfortable with public speaking, join Toastmasters clubs and things like that, right? And if you're not sure, right, it's okay. Say, I could like to get more experience like this, but I don't know how to do it. Like maybe you're not familiar with Toastmasters Club, which is a non-for-profit club people join to help them with public speaking. And it's very, very supportive. It's been around for about 50 years, and a lot of people really like it. I've never actually been to a meeting, but I hear people say all kind of good things about it. So there's opportunities like that. So if you're a little stuck, right, you want to bounce some ideas off of me or go fishing for some ideas, that's fine. Just shoot me an email. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Or we could, talk one-on-one about it. Okay, so that's kind of, other than the next reflective narratives and a couple of voice threads, right, that's the next big assignment that's coming up. Okay, now I'd like to talk about the video I had you watch tonight. Steve or Simon Sinek, right, talked about the business leaders don't even know the game they're in, right? If anybody had any just overall first comments, reactions to that, anything like that?
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, what'd you love about it?
I mean, all of it. I actually seen bits and pieces of that before, but I teach high school math.
Okay.
And I love the bit about the millennials because technically I'm not sure where I fall. I'm close to the millennial age, but I'm not.
Yeah, you got to be close. Yeah.
But I'm not. I have the old school mentality. I don't have the millennial mentality.
Yeah.
It's true. They are so. I have one of mine right here who was babysitting for me earlier.
Yeah.
That's her. But they do. Their self-esteem, the way they talked about that, the influence of technology, the way they discuss that. It's really incredible how they really do have that lower self-esteem. I hate everyone gets a trophy. Not everyone deserves. I really enjoyed the speech, and I just thought it was so relevant to the kids today. And I love that he talked about being a parent and approaching it like everyone can be a parent, not everyone should be a parent. In 15 years of teaching, not everyone should be a parent.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I really loved his analogies and how you work with these kids because they are the future, and I do it every day. And how do you relate to them and inspire them and deal with what they're dealing with because they're such a different generation. I just really enjoyed it.
Good. That's good. Yeah, it's kind of two speeches. He talks about the kids and their phones, and before that, he talks about business leaders, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And so for those of us who've worked at big companies, right, there's this relentless push to improve things every quarter, right? Every quarter we got to do better. Every quarter we got to do better. We got to constantly show improvements, right? Which if you've worked very long at a big company, that's the constant theme. And I get why you need to get better because everybody else is getting better. And if you don't, you'll wind up like Xerox and Blockbuster and everybody else is on the scrap heap. So you do need to get better at some point, right? But I like the idea where he talks about you've got to play the long game, not the short game, right? You got to be in it for the long haul and take care of the long things, right? And I don't know, does anybody have any comments or observations or if they agreed or disagreed?
When he talked about like the difference between his meetings at Microsoft versus Apple and how everything at Microsoft was like, okay, how are we going to beat Apple? How are we going to do this? Where at Apple, they weren't even thinking about Microsoft, but in the end, some higher up person at Apple said he had no doubt that the Microsoft product was probably better.
He was just unfazed, right?
Mm-hmm. He was like, yeah, it probably is better.
Yeah. And he's like, I have no doubt. I'm like, oh, okay. And took all the fun out of it, didn't he? Any other? Madeline, you're muted.
Here, I can unmute. I'm sorry. I also like the point he made about how the right environment is more relevant than, trying to get the right people, because the right people will come, to the right environment. I thought that was really important because we all the leaders usually think, oh, I need to, and they're right. I need to get, to hire the perfect person for this job.
Yeah.
Right. And that's correct. But probably not very many people think I have to build the right environment for the right people to stay and to thrive in this environment. So I thought that was really relevant.
Okay, good.
Kind of going on top of the environment talk, I kind of want to flip this around to you, Dr. Schimler, because in undergrad, you were the one who taught, me and my fellow classmates that, the goal of business is to maximize shareholder value.
Yep.
And that's kind of what's hammered into our brains. And he even said in his little speech that that is a flawed mindset in business. How do you think that approach
Good challenge from
changes?
Hank. I like that. So what I don't think we're at odds. What I would say in class, and Hank had me when he was undergrad, and he's exactly right. That's what I would say. What's the goal of business? To make money. But then I would say, and I'd finish the sentence with now and in the future, right? So what you see business people doing is if I tighten the screws too much at work to try to save money to increase our profits, then I'll make it a terrible place to work because nobody has enough resources or nobody's getting any raises. Like Madalena was saying, they don't want to stay. Then the good people will leave. Then what do I have? Then I have a sinking ship, right? So even though I made more money now, I won't make more money in the future because I've, sold our soul for the short-term gain, and now we're going to sink in the long run, right? Versus, so sometimes I teach in Europe. I teach management classes in Europe, and I'm very impressed with Europe has a lot of, rather than big corporate, they have big corporations too, but they have a lot of what I consider medium-sized companies, 80, 100, maybe up to 150, 200 employees. And they're often owned or controlled by a family. So there's a founder and now his kids work there or multiple family members. And also there's 30, 40-year employees who work there. So they're there forever, right? They're tenured, they're in there forever till they retire. And so they get treated like family too. And I see the decisions, if you, like I used to work for General Electric, and if you brought in a new manager of General Electric, they were expected to show improvement, and they would do whatever it took to show improvements within a couple of quarters, or it was looked unfavorably on them. And if they had to tell a customer, hey, I understand your problem, but we're not going to help you because we'd have to spend money and we're not going to do that for you, and they might negatively impact the customer in the long run. Versus if I'm a family-run business in Austria and a customer is unhappy, my end game is to make that customer satisfied, not break our business, but I want the customer having good word of either repeat business from this customer or good word of mouth from this customer, or at least avoid negative word of mouth from this customer, right? So my kids can keep this business going 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and so forth. I think it gives you a very, very different look at the business. And I think, so if I own my own business and I have a bad quarter because we screwed up and we had to bail ourselves out of a job we did for a client, so we made, but we saved face, we saved our name in the marketplace, all that. We just didn't make much money this quarter. I could deal with that. I don't have to answer to anybody because I own the company, right? And that was the choice I made to preserve our name, so we do good in the so business-wise we do well in the long run, right? And I think that's much more the mindset when you're going to be there forever. As opposed to, I want to come in this place, do some short-term changes, make a name for myself, and then move on to my next job, right? So I think you just have a very different look at it when you own it, when your grandfather's name's on the sign above the door and all that. And I think it gives you a very much different look on the business. And I think people are encouraged to much more do what some people consider the right thing, right? You're in it for the long haul. And I think that's what Simon Sinek was talking about. Businesses like that, where they're in it for, the idea is to stay in the game. I want my children and grandchildren and my employees' children to be able to work here 30 years from now, and we're still competing, we're still doing well, right? And so I'm trying to figure out a way to take some data on those both companies, because I'd love to publish a paper on this about who lasts longer, right? The corporations who go in and out of style pretty fast, or is it the family-owned businesses that manage, that figured out a way to survive decade after decade after decade. So I don't know, something about that. I think of it as the European family model, but that impresses me a lot, how they run a business. Quite frankly, that's the place I would like to work, right? The place that just the goal is to go on and on and on, right? As a matter of fact, that's kind of what I like about working at a university is, right, our goal is not to put up better numbers every quarter or even every year, but the goal is to go on and on and on so we can, you know, educate students and do our thing and all that. And it gives you a very much different look on it, right? And once you're tenured, right, then you expect to be there for a really long time. So people much more take the long view than the short view, which I certainly appreciate, particularly after working for big corporations in America, which tend to, I mean, they talk about the long view a lot, but boy, they'll do some very stupid stuff to look good in the short run, right? And sometimes they take very big risk. People would put the company at risk so their career will look good if it works out, or they want their stock options or whatever it is, their profit sharing plans or whatever. And it can lead to huge messes like the housing mortgage crash in 2008, and just, you know, takes you to places you don't want to go. So what do you think, Hank? Did I backpedal a little bit, or I kind of bounce out my comments from earlier?
You took a longer way than I anticipated you would, but you got there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, you have to survive today, right? You have to stay in business today to get to tomorrow, but the goal is to get to tomorrow, right? So sometimes you have to cut your losses, but generally you have to try to hang in there for the long run, right? And I think that leads leaders to do a lot of good things. You build the culture that the good people want to stay. You stay in the game. It leads you to ethically do the right things. I think it makes it a lot easier to make good decisions as a leader when you're worrying about the long-term view as opposed to just putting up bigger and bigger numbers in the short run. So I like that. I think it gives, not everybody feels like they have the permission to do the long-term approach. They should be helping their companies in the short term and so forth. And I think that's one of the things I like about the video. It tells you, not only is this okay, this is the way people should be thinking about it, right? Now, he's pretty new on the scene, by the way, Simon Sinek, but he has a number of videos. If you ever bored in your car and got your smartphone out or whatever, right? There's a bunch of, he has a good one called Why Leaders Eat Last, and how you take care of your people first and that kind of stuff. So he has a lot of pretty good thoughts on leadership. And I know a number of students I talk to really like his videos and all that. So I thought I'd kind of give you a taste of what he was about, talking about development, the way things work, and what motivates people. Any other things you like? Anything you didn't like about it? Anybody?
Doctor, this is Todd. One of the things that I really picked up on the video was where he was talking about leaders leaders are responsible for the people, not necessarily the task of their people. And okay. I found that to be exceptionally exciting, because that's exactly right. A lot of times leaders, and I was going to use the word manager there, but a lot of time leaders in organizations are responsible for micromanaging, and they don't implement the empathy or the empathetic approach and apply that to the organizational goals. They're focused primarily on the results, and that is their number one motivating factor.
Right. They don't care how many, we used to say, they don't care how many dead bodies they leave in their wake, right? They're going to get the results they're supposed to get, right?
And like you, I work for a large organization as well, but I have the experience of being an entrepreneur and dealing with the struggles that are involved with that. So I've seen both the small business approach as well as the corporate approach, and it is a completely different animal when the people that are leading the organization may not necessarily have their hands in deep enough to really know the people that are doing the work.
Okay, right. Anybody else? I like the way you talked about your goal is to make the organization stronger, right? It's not just to do something in the short run. It's to get through and make the organization stronger. And it kind of makes me think about students, right? There's students who, I want to do the minimum to get through this class with a B or whatever my goal is in this class, right? I don't care if I learn anything or not or whatever. Just let me check the box and go on to the next thing. Versus the person who's in the long game says, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to try to find something that I can use in the long run, right? I want some takeaways. I want to be better. I don't want just to get an MBA. I want to act like I have an MBA. I want to know stuff. I want people to around me can see that I'm using things I learned in class, I learned in my program and so forth. And so I think you can take kind of what he was talking about from that video and kind of apply it to yourself, right? What am I doing here? And make sure you take the long-term view of stuff and building yourself up into the bigger, stronger version of you, as opposed to just getting through stuff in the short run, right? Now, I know you got a lot to do. Everybody's working, everybody's going to school, everybody's doing homework and all of that. So yeah, if I can make this quicker and easier and less painful, that would be great. But try to keep it in your head how you can focus on what's going along the way, right? So you can get the best takeaways you can out of your classes, right? You can apply those, right? And you certainly don't have to wait till graduate. And we have a lot of MBA students tell me that, they're already using stuff they're learning in class at work, right? It already shows, right? I think that's a helpful approach to it. Okay. So I think I'm going to send you a couple more other videos. I think they're just thoughtful stuff for leaders to hear, right? I mean, I do this in my car sometimes when I'm on trips and stuff. Just play kind of some of these videos. Some of them aren't very good, right? You just go on to the next one. I find the TED Talks are good and the TEDx Talks are good. They have lots of good speakers. There's lots of stuff about leadership, communication skills, decision-making skills. People talk about unintentional biases, just really good stuff to know as somebody who's going to lead a group of people and that kind of stuff. It just gives you lots of good stuff to think about. And maybe your brain's too full of school and that kind of stuff, right? But after you graduate, right, you have a little more bandwidth, a little more time to start thinking about things like that, hopefully. Okay. All right. So that's about all I wanted to go over tonight, was just kind of get everybody caught up on where we are, how we're doing. I'll look into those, trouble you're having getting online with VoiceThreads, and then I'll see what else we can do. And if I think of any, if I find a couple more good videos, right, I'll send them out to you and see what's up. All right. Any other questions or comments for me? No? All right. Well, it was good to see everybody, and we're going to get together probably at least one more time before that. We'll probably get together in November here, maybe before those papers are due, and kind of review again what the whole idea of those papers, and how you're going to try to plan to build a better you. But I guess that's it for tonight. If anybody's missing, I'll post this on Moodle, or anybody wants to see this again. This will be out on Moodle, and you can watch it again.
And Dr. Schimler, this is Trenae.
Yeah.
Unless you change the date, the leadership paper says November 20th on the schedule.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, thanks for clearing that up. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, everybody. I'll see you later. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
I'll take care.